it brings us to the real elephant in the room, is the Expropriation Without Compensation Act that has been passed. We've spoken at length about poor land security and land tenure, or weak land tenure. Does this not weaken it further?
I mean, I think, Terry, even before we get there, we have to appreciate the fact that between 2006 up until end of 2024, the South African government has been buying land in the open market. And that today, in our estimation, on work with Johan Kirsten, is that it's sitting at about 2.5 million hectares of that land. And just for the viewers of our conversation to appreciate how big is that is, all of our grains and oilseeds are planted in about 4.5 million hectares of land. So you have over half of that. The reason then that land today, even itself, is not as full production is because it is leased to a range of black farmers, some of it, and they are given 3-year, 5-year, 30-year leases. No serious investment studies going on, starved of capital. In essence then, ending up looking like the other parts of the land that we need to resolve. So that's the potential at which then we should be moving on in growing the South African agricultural pie. But again, in the aspect of the Expropriation Act then, I would argue that this is not weakening the tenure in South Africa at all. In part because the country is not introducing a new law. We've had Expropriation Act in South Africa since 1975. And what has happened now is to make sure that there are these amendments that are necessary to align it with the Constitution. And of course, the biggest talking theme since the start of the year has been this aspect that there's a possibility of a nil compensation. But that nil compensation is not something that the government bureaucrats or the ministers and the others arrive at. It is a possibility that the courts may arrive at after having considered a whole range of aspects to get to that. And I think, though, the critical thing is that the Expropriation Act is not a tool of driving land reform per se, as even the political leaders have made that particular point. It is administered on public works. Land reform remains on those three principles of redistribution, restitution and tenure, and buying all of that land in the open market. So I think the property rights side in South Africa are still pretty much intact.
So what you're saying is controlled by the judiciary?
The judiciary would arrive at in that. But I think the even more important aspect is that the act on itself would be used as a last resort in a few instances. It's not an act that you would say, okay, I have an Expropriation Act, I will go drive land reform. And I know that there are political leaders who have said that, and it sparks all of the fears in society, which is something that they themselves misinterpret what's going on. And I think they are adding into this confusion that is out there in the country. And the biggest mistake here, Terry, is actually been done by the presidency and the others that are in government. There should have been clear communication of what's going on, and not leave it to the confusion. Because where all of the confusion starts from, I think, at the end of 2017, we had that ANC conference where one of the resolution was the amendment of Section 25,
yes,
leading to expropriation without compensation. The country had a big discussion, but the agreement was that we do not, as South Africa, we value property rights. It's at the core of our economic growth and all of the things. And we want black farmers to actually also get in and have strong property rights and prosper as we grow the country. And I think now, then, the Expropriation Act, there may be an element of society that confuses both of these two things. And that lack of communication from the leadership at the start of all of this process may have added to this.